All right, I think we'll get started. I was just hearing myself echo, which is really weird, so I had to make sure doors were closed. So we're starting. Let me just start. Welcome you to our assessment director meeting for October on a Wednesday rather than a Thursday. And just welcome. We'll get started and go through this. As always, if you have questions, please leave them in the chat message. We'll try to respond to them as we go. And we have several different people that will be switching places, and hopefully you'll be patient as we do that. So just, I think Darren's even on, so maybe he can, I don't know, chat hello. But Darren Nielsen has been, or has taken the position of Assistant Superintendent of Student Learning. And you can see here on the slide, he will have 3 different sections of USBE that he will be overseeing. And I've included here that he will officially start the 26th, though we've been emailing him to try and help him get set up. If you don't know, Darren Nielsen comes from Box Elder. He's currently the Assistant Superintendent of with Curriculum in Box Elder. So we're excited. Oh, look at that. Shout out from Cash. That's good. So if you know him, he's great. I had a chance to work with him in Box Elder. Very excited to see him coming here to USBE. Here's our agenda for the day. Well, not the day, the hour or two that we're together. I've included people here with their emails. They're the ones that are going to be presenting this information. It's not necessarily exclusive on who exactly oversees this. There are, we're assisting, collaborating with each other. But for the moment, as far as presentations, this is how it's lined out today. Any questions with our agenda? Hopefully none, but you never know. Okay, we're going to start off with ACT, and Rebecca will share that with you.
Hey, good morning. So we're going to talk a little bit about ACT. I had to do something that was not quite so serious at the beginning with deadlines, directions, and drollery, but then I decided later that probably the drollery was going to be a little bit minimal, but I wanted to throw it in there anyway. So I sent out a survey just this last week, and on this survey, I'm requesting some input about things that would be helpful and tools that, or checklists, or anything that would be useful to you as you're preparing to administer the ACT. If you did not get that survey link, it's written down here on the slide. And so if you would just mind logging in, it's only 6 questions. It'll take you about maybe 3 minutes, but it will provide very useful information for me as I work on creating things that are helpful for you. Also, it closes next Friday, so if you wouldn't mind just jumping on. Also, if you could share the link with any special ed directors or special ed teachers or anybody else in your organization that might be involved in administering the ACT, that would be great, and I appreciate it. So here's the big news. As of, was that yesterday? No, Monday. Monday afternoon, the leadership at USBE decided not to administer ACT with writing. So it'll just be the regular components of the ACT. And that's for this year, this 2017-18 year. So that's the big news. If you have questions on that, feel free to put it into the chat. But so as we move forward, we'll just be looking at the regular 4 components of the ACT. Here's a reminder of the testing dates. on the slide. So the window essentially goes from February 27th through March 8th, depending on if you're going to use paper. There's slightly different, there's 3 different dates within that, or if you're using the online testing, you have Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays during that testing window. Then students with accommodations have a testing window of the 27th through the 13th of March. And then there's makeup dates for students with accommodations, which are March 20th to the 23rd and the 26th. And this information is posted on the ACT website. If you need to find it again, it's on the state page that is our own on USB's website, and it's also on the ACT website on our Utah page that ACT hosts. So by now, this is one question that I've found so far on the survey when I've checked in. One is people wondering, well, what should we have done already? And then another one is wondering, well, what should we do next? So by now, you should have a designated testing coordinator. You should have explored Utah's page on the ACT website. And when you get onto that website, you'll find that there's kind of a checklist of, here's what you do first, here's what you do second. And then when you click on each of their checklist items, it will open up more information about preparing for and administering the ACT. So there's a link on this particular presentation. When you get the presentation, you can click on the link, or you can go directly to the address that is typed out down here. Also, I asked about when the testing coordinator manual will be ready. Right now, it refers to it on the page, but it isn't hyperlinked by ACT yet. And the ACT people said that they should have that technical or the manual for testing coordinators and the other manuals hopefully posted by the end of next week. That's their goal. Question on, do you need to designate a coordinator every year? You're okay if it's the same as last year. We sent out the Excel spreadsheet earlier in September, and schools had replied back if it was the same or different. If there are any changes that you need to make to that, we've already submitted that to ACT, so you would need to get a hold of the ACT people and let them know that there's a change on there. Another question, what's required to have the ACT online at our school? There's a document that I've created that I believe Emily shared with you that has ACT paper versus ACT online. And it's just a side-by-side comparison so that you can go through and see what the different requirements are. But in essence, you need to have computers that have the secure testing site on them. You need to have a setup that's similar to the ACT with paper as far as student spacing, things like that, but you'll need to have a technical supervisor who's able to troubleshoot any problems that might come up. That would just be somebody that you've designated to do that. And there's a technology pre-check that needs to be completed by January 24th. There's some advantages to online testing and disadvantages to online testing, just like there is with paper. So the comparison between online and paper can be a really useful tool to look at and decide which way you might want to go. Also, another thing that you should have is accounts at Schmoop that are set up if you'd like to use that as an ACT prep tool. And you can, if you don't have the information for that, please feel free to send me an email and I can send you that information. So that leads us to the next things to do. So from here, reviewing that paper versus online, Pearson Next access will be available November 6th through December 1st. And at that point, that's when you'll get in there, log on, let ACT know, do you want to do paper, do you want to do online? And then also applying for student accommodations. And this is for any students who have disabilities. They're documented in an IEP or a 504 plan, and also students who are English learners. There are accommodations that need to be applied for and documented beforehand. There's a link on this site about applying for those accommodations. It's a hyperlink and the web address. So if you just take a moment, go through that information. The critical things to remember with that are that the The items need to be documented so that ACT can see that there is history and information that supports the request. So the two main problems with having items denied last year, one was that people didn't submit within the deadline, the time frame. The other was that there was not sufficient information or background to support the request. For anybody who is working on filling out the assessment addendums on an IEP, it's important to make sure and mark the accommodations section. There's a couple of tables that just need to be marked with what accommodations students need for all state assessments. And then on the part where you put either PA or SA for the type of participation students would have, that's where you'll put information about how those accommodations would be applied. Or in the case of SAGE, since they're embedded, it would be a standard administration potentially. But the important thing is that on the table that lists all of the accommodations, that those things are marked. Question, how do we request district level TAA account? So when you go onto the accommodations page or onto Utah's help page, so if you go to the Utah ACT page, there's a phone number down at the bottom. And if you call the phone number on there, that's our kind of our help desk that's directly located at ACT. And they'll be able to help you answer that question of how you set the TAA account up and how do you look at things on a district level. Okay, so upcoming trainings. There's a Q&A that'll be online on November 10th at 3 o'clock, and ACT will be sending out information and they'll send that out through the emails that were submitted on the org file. This was the one that was done in September. So anybody who is listed as a testing coordinator on that particular paper will get the email from, or on that file, will get the email from ACT about the trainings. On November 16th, after our AD meeting, we're going to have an in-person training. Or if you're not able to attend in person, you can join us on WebEx. And the link for the WebEx meeting is down here on the slide. And then on December 1st is another Q&A, and that's an online training done by ACT. And again, they will send out the information and the links for how to join the Q&A sessions. So another question that has come up is, what is the plan for 2018-19 as schools are getting ready and they're looking at their calendars and trying to plan out the following year? So we have test dates for the following years. Again, this is not this year's testing, this is 2018-19. So February 20th, then we have March 12th and April 2nd. Those are the paper test dates. And the computer window is the 20th through the 2nd. So as soon as, we'll fill in more information on that as we go along. But I know that many of you are working on your school calendars for the year. So here's the information on those particular dates. Let's see, a question, who do we need to contact to add an additional school testing admin? So you'll want to contact the ACT number on the Utah page so that they can fill that information in. And also, if you wouldn't mind emailing me that person's contact information so that we can add it and update our records here, that would be great as well. And if you get stuck on that, feel free to drop me an email and I can help out with that as well. So if you have questions, here's my email address. It's rebecca.peterson@schools.utah.gov. Please feel free to send me questions, ideas, suggestions, things that would be useful, and we will move from there. Question about ACT Aspire for 9th and 10th graders. The RFP for 9th and 10th grade testing has not been released yet, so we don't know. All we know is that we'll have a test vendor for 9th and 10th grade, but we do not know who that will be yet. It still needs to go through the RFP process. Okay, if there aren't any other questions, wait for just a moment, see if anybody posts anything. Let's see. Utrecht sends, here's another question. If I remember correctly, Utrecht sends a file of 11th grade to ACT, and then we just need to add students who enter the school. Yeah, so this, we will send the ACT file in December, and if there's anybody that changes or that's different after December, then that will need to be updated by the schools. But as of, I believe, December 16th, we'll need to have that submitted to ACT. So you'll have a couple of week period of time to be able to verify that the students listed with your school are your students and that everybody is in there. Hey, any other questions? Okay, I'm going to turn it over. Thanks for joining. It's now Anne Michelle's turn.
Okay. Thank you, Rebecca. Hi, good morning, everyone. We're going to talk this morning about school grades. It's been a little bit confusing, I think, because we've been introducing the new accountability system at the same time as school grades were released under the old accountability system. So I'm going to try to clarify some of those things. To start, just a brief history of accountability. Accountability has been around for a long time. The first accountability reporting requirements were in 1990, and those were just district and state level performance across the state. Reporting was expanded to the school level in 2000. Adequate yearly progress is a year we probably all remember very well, when schools were held accountable for making AYP, and that was just a yes or no criteria, and there were heavy consequences attached to that. And so I think that maybe where some of the anxiety about accountability comes from. That's just my own impression. In 2011, our state established the school grading accountability system that was fully implemented in 2013. Later that year, the governor created the PACE report, and there were additional federal requirements. So that's why we've had, in essence, 3 different report cards that you have to look at and dig through. One for school grading, one for federal accountability, and one for PACE. This accountability system was based on SAGE proficiency, SAGE growth, and for high school's graduation and ACT performance. The percent of the total points possible is resulted in a letter grade, and as you know, that letter grade criteria shifted based on the norm throughout the state. So the school grades that you saw on September 15th that were just released were calculated under this system. Also, the accountability technical manual that's linked here, it's on the assessment website. That technical manual describes this system. So if you need help interpreting the report cards that you received in September, that accountability technical manual is a really good resource for you to share or to explore, to see what the metrics are, how exactly things are counted, what some business rules are, etc. So let's now look forward to something we've been talking about for a while. So we're going back to the future. This is the system that's going to be in place moving here, this year, and forward. You've seen these graphs before, but the revised accountability system starting for 2017 and 2018 adds additional indicators. It adds growth of the lowest 25%, as well as English learner progress. So we're really putting a flashlight on our students in our schools that have the greatest needs. We're also looking at advanced coursework that's added into high school. We're looking at the percentage of students who pass AP or concurrent enrollment, CTE pathways, or international baccalaureate courses with a C or better. I really like that metric because it's not based in assessment. It's a different kind of indicator and something that's new for us. ACT indicator changes a little bit. Rather than requiring students to meet all 4 benchmarks, we are using the composite score of 18. as the criteria for meeting that indicator for high schools. Something else important that I like to point out is that this is a very growth-heavy model, which is advantageous, I think, for schools. If you look at elementary, middle school pie chart, you can see that the growth of all students and growth of the lowest 25% of students makes up for more than half of the accountability system. The English learner progress is also a growth measure, so that's 63% of the accountability system for elementary schools is based in growth. I think that's an important thing to acknowledge, that we see it levels the playing field a little bit. I see a question about concurrent enrollment counted as advanced coursework for high schools, and that is yes. We are looking at concurrent enrollment courses for advanced coursework, as well as CTE pathways. Does concurrent enrollment count only if it's linked to CTE pathway? No. If it's a concurrent enrollment course, we consider that an advanced coursework or college and career readiness preparation. So from the revised accountability indicators, we have revised school grades. We went through an extensive criteria setting process. Many of you may have been part of that. School grades are something that aren't everyone's favorite thing, but it is something that our legislature has determined is important. We're trying to emphasize the descriptors attached to those. An A school is exemplary, commendable for B, typical for C, etc. This is new information that you've been asking for, is what are the cut scores for those? If we went through a standard sending process to establish cut scores for each of these things, here they are. So grades 3 through 8, the threshold to earn an A is 63.25 points. You can see the breakdown. We also ran impact data based on 2016 performance in the state. And you can see the percentage of schools that fell within each of the grade performance levels. I'll show you a graph of this later to give you a visual. Also, the point allocation is different. We've had like 600 points for elementary school previously, and now there are 150 points total out of for elementary school. So 63.25 points out of that 150 will earn a letter grade of an A. For high school, the threshold scores aren't actually that different, but an A school is 64, B school is a score of 57, C school is 46, etc. I see a question. It says, I remember correctly, schools that were previously graded under the alternative and special education accountability system will be moving over to that accountability system. Is that correct? That is a discussion yet to be had about alternative accountability school systems. The reason for that is that ESSA is less flexible than we've had in the past around having an alternative accountability system. We've put it into our state plan that we would like to maintain our alternative system for alternative schools because it has worked really well. But that decision, we will be receiving feedback from the Department of Ed on that plan shortly.
2 more questions.
Okay.
Will elementary middle schools with a 9th grade be graded using only the criteria for an elementary middle?
Will elementary middle schools with a 9th grade be graded with only the elementary criteria? We've decided to keep the business rules that have been in place previously for schools with different configurations in place in the same way. So in the same way that schools with maybe K8 or K9 have received 2 separate report cards, one for elementary, one for middle, etc. Those same rules will be in place. So you'll see report cards produced in the same way that you have in the past.
What is impact data?
What is impact data? Let me show you. So this is impact data. This means that we simulated outcomes based on last year's test. So this is the distribution of schools throughout the state and how they would score under the new accountability system. You can see 7% of elementary schools would have received an A. The bulk of schools would receive a B or a C. D and F schools are 20%. High schools, very similar. Many B and C schools. And these graphs are based on those cut scores, even though they actually look quite normative. But that tells us that our cut scores are have a lot of reliability and validity in differentiating schools meaningfully.
Another question, how many total points at the high school level with this new criteria since elementary earns 150?
Thank you, yes. Elementary earns 150 points. The additional college and career readiness indicators add up to a total for 225 points possible for high schools. Errors in grading, mainly opt-outs being miscoded, were they found this year. We have found some errors. Unfortunately, we rely on you as LEAs to code those special codes, including opt-outs, and there is a process for appealing if you feel that the school grade for this year was miscalculated, and you can provide us with the rationale for how things should have been coded, and we're willing to take a look at that. If the question is saying, I think also asking, were there many errors found this year? And I would say no, it doesn't appear to be widespread, but those special codes do have an impact on this side. So that's an assurance that they be entered into incorrectly. Does that answer the question? I think so. So another thing we're trying to achieve with this new single accountability system that meets both state and federal requirements is having a single report card. That's really exciting, where you've had 3 different report cards to dig through to find data. We're working with a design firm to develop a really useful tool that's useful for parents and community, but also for you as a school. This is a screenshot of the sample that we've developed so far. We're really excited about this interactive tool that's very drillable, that's very visual and meaningful, and excited to share that more about this as we move forward. So what to expect for 2017, 2018? School grade reports will be released in the fall of 2018. State law no longer requires the deadline of September 15th, but we do have the goal that fall is a reasonable time to receive your school grade so that you can make instructional and funding decisions and planning decisions. The school grades this year will be based on those new indicators. The board has the option of not assigning a letter grade for 2018, but this hasn't been discussed yet. This means that you would receive the grade report, but it wouldn't have that letter A at the top of the screen, but you would get all the additional information. Like I said, regardless of this decision, their school report cards will be released for schools to use to inform practices, instructional decisions, etc.
You have a question? Is there a link to the document to help schools understand school grades?
Is there a link to the document to understand school grades? That is something we're creating. For this year's school grade, the Accountability Technical Assistance Manual very thoroughly describes school grades. So if you need something to help your schools understand their school grade that was just released, the Accountability Technical Manual does really clearly describe how that grade is calculated. For this moving forward, we're going to create a same kind of resource that's very thorough in describing the new accountability system and all of those changes. But if you're looking at trying to explain to a school their own letter grade that they just received, the Accountability Technical Manual that's posted online is the resource you'll want to go to. I have another question. Will opt-out rates show on the report card? Yes, they will. how will one report card affect the difference between state and federal allowance of opt-out? One thing we're trying to do with our ESSA state plan is align our state and federal requirements for opt-out, rather than things being calculated differently, some including opt-outs, some not. We are looking for flexibility with our state opt-out law, and hoping that the federal government will be willing to let us use opt-outs in the same way for federal as we do for state. But it is something that will be reported, but the way it is included in the calculations is still kind of being worked out, if that is a helpful answer. I'm also going to give you some updates on WIDA while I'm here. So our WIDA materials ordering window begins October 23rd. You or others in your LEA should have received an email from DRC. I also included that same email as an attachment to the AD memo that was distributed on October 13th. So please collaborate with those in your LEA who order WIDA materials. That may be you, it may be someone else, but share information, check in and follow up on the process. I have included a link to a frequently asked questions page on WIDA that addresses questions about materials ordering. But that attachment to the AD memo is a very thorough description of how to order materials for your schools. WIDA has produced a really helpful infographic about what's new for 2017-2018. If you click on this image when you receive the PowerPoint, it will take you to this infographic, and you can, all of these are hyperlinks. If you need test and preparation training, go here. If you need to get started, there's this Let's Get Going infographic. The getting started, how do you get students ready for testing? Here's the link for test and materials ordering. Technology updates, if your technology coordinator needs to know where to go, this is a link directly to all of the technology requirements, and as well as accessibility and accommodations. Over here, if you are new AD or really need some step-by-step guidance for the process of administering access, which is coming up in January, this link here will take you to kind of a getting started guide, which I think is really helpful. I wanted to tell you about the formative language assessment workshop. That will be held on the 16th and 17th at the state capitol. This is a 2-day workshop. It's intended for teacher teams. Individual teachers can attend and participate fully. However, it is designed for folks to work in teams. So if you have a team of teachers or a PLC that you'd like to send, there's a registration link at the bottom of this slide. Last I checked, there were only 6 spots left, so we have limited capacity. So please take advantage of this. This is a similar formative language assessment workshop that we offered last year, but that was so well received and we received such positive feedback, we decided to offer it again. For test coordinators and test administrators, we're going to be having a training on December 7th. Test administrators will be in the morning from 8 until noon, and test coordinators will be in the afternoon. I asked some clarifying questions to WIDA about how much will people want to see the whole day, and she said that a lot of the information is maybe like 2/3 of the information is repeated in each session, but then the other third is customized for administrators versus coordinators. So there's perhaps choose the session that is best related to your role, so that you're not sitting through the presentation of the same information for much of the day. We will release registration information and the location of that training soon. WIDA has created surveys for teacher practices and for students. They want to hear more about the experience teachers are having with WIDA, and also the experience that students are having. So here are the 2 links, and please pass those surveys along to your schools and ask them to share them with your EL students. WIDA is also sharing these on their website and through social media. Okay, thank you very much. If it looks like in the chat there is some questions about where the technical assistance manual is, and I think you're right. If you go to schools.utah.gov and go to the assessment and then resources page, I think the second link on that resources page for under accountability. So, okay, Emily.
Good morning. Just a few things on the data that's happening. Utrecht is offline at the moment. It's going to be offline until Monday. And then regarding a December Utrecht outage, we're going to try and get you guys the information ahead of time as to what's going to happen with that one. I'll pass it on as soon as I get it.
Can I jump in?
Yep. Jared's going to come over for a second.
Okay, so yeah, we just had breaking news. Feels like a news story. So Aaron Bruff, I guess I can get down in the camera. Aaron Bruff just stopped me and we talked for, he said that at the latest, Utrecht will be off until tomorrow. So it should be up either later this afternoon or at the latest again tomorrow for Utrecht. So I don't know if that really matters with fall break and UEA and all that, but should be sooner than the 23rd.
All right. So that's good news. And then we'll just keep you updated about what is happening for December still. And then just a reminder, the assessments that are affected by a Utrecht outage is all of the nightly uploads, and then the Apple pre-ID file. Hopefully with this coming back online and a workaround that we'll talk about in a little bit, we'll be able to work Apple and get some corrections made there. And then once it comes back up online, we'll be sending that information to the vendors. So, and then Heather's going to talk to this one.
All right, so I'm jumping in for a split second. So as far as how this impacts M-Class, anyone that was a new enrollment into your school since Utrecht has been down has not been loaded into M-Class. Once Utrecht is back up, then those new registers will be able to roster into M-Class and appear. So this does not affect progress monitoring at all. They should be able to roll through, teachers should be able to use the progress monitoring system through M-Class without any issues whatsoever. As far as students who have unenrolled from your school, teachers or your schools, teachers are still seeing them on their rosters. Don't delete them. We're in discussion about how to do a soft delete periodically so that student's data is not lost completely. In case they return to a M-Class supported school, then that data will roll back with them. So that discussion is still ongoing, but there will be something in place soon. Thank you.
Backwards. Hey, I'll figure this out. Scott Ross Kelly, your friendly neighborhood science specialist, about a little update. We have a handout. We call it a parent handout, but it's available for anyone who wants to use it. It looks like this. You've got a copy of it in the downloads. It's got a lot of information in it, so not just parents, but any stakeholders that might benefit from hearing this, whether it's PTSA or parents or students or especially teachers or administrators that want to know about the new standards and what's going on with those. Please go ahead and send that out in any way you want, electronic, paper copies, it doesn't matter. We just had this approved by the USB leadership. And so if you have any questions about it, just go ahead and send me a note and I'm happy to answer any questions about it. If you still have teachers that want to sign up, or if you want to know what's going on with SAGE Science Development, just follow that QR code or that that Google shortcut, and you'll be able to find out anything about that. So any questions? Pretty short and simple. Well, go on to Kim Rathke next.
Good morning. A couple things we wanted to let you know that we wanted to make sure teachers were aware of. As we've been doing our writing workshops, we've discovered that some of the information hasn't gotten down to the end of the row. And so I wanted to make sure, why is this not clicking? Yeah. It's not, their mouse just disconnected. There are a couple of about 4 enhancements that are really a big deal. First of all, and this is the thing that teachers have been waiting for forever, which is that teachers can now print an entire class of students' responses with their scores, as well as an entire class of students' responses without scores if they need to. And I've got some directions in the following slides to show you how they do that. Another thing is that they've updated the scoring engines a little bit. And we will be, the scoring shows us decimal points with no rounding, so that they can really get a really fine-grained bit of information. It helps students really, for those teachers who are having students track their progress, it shows them their really fine-grained information. Terralyn asked if we're going to post a recording of our writing workshops. There is no recording because it's a 7-hour presentation, and we are not providing presentation materials unless you attend the workshop. It's way too much information, and there's about 50 pages worth of stuff. So you'll need to, we can talk about that later, Terralyn, because we may need to, do a session with you guys, since we had a lot of information. We've tried to do as many as we could. Progress reports are going to show the scores for first drafts and last drafts, and both by filtering. So teachers who are using reports, you can actually look student growth. You can look at first drafts and final drafts. And I've got a few slides to, we have a lot of information to show you. Here, one of the other big things that I wanted to bring up, and this happens all the time, and I've sent this out in a couple AD memos, and we've talked about this for the last 3 or 4 years. But I really want to make sure that everybody's aware of what happens when teachers try to go in to validate their accounts and they can't. Generally, these 5 things are the problem, and probably the bottom 2 are the most common. But occasionally we have teachers who are trying to put in the wrong Cactus ID number, or when they're entering the information like I have on the picture on the slide, they put the T in. Sometimes and this is really common for new teachers or teachers who have moved, that it's not linked to their courses. So it'll say they're not validated, they can't see their students. It's really incredibly important for all of the things that go through UTREX that Cactus ID numbers are attached to the courses. Otherwise, we have all kinds of issues with DIBELs and everything else, with things not connecting to the teacher. Sometimes it's UTREX errors, which we find out about, and occasionally the teacher's using the wrong name. If they, like I put on here Rebecca using Becky, or a name change due to marriage or divorce, it's really important to let teachers know that their Cactus record has to match their name exactly, or it doesn't work either. And then, of course, the famous bane of my existence, the product of the social security number is incorrect. And so we have teachers who, they really do need to do their math more than once to make sure that works. And that seems really simple, but I probably send out about 20 emails every other day for this exact reason, just from people not doing it. So you may want to pass this down and let teachers know. Now, for those of you who need to know, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time reading this to you, but this is exactly how teachers can print an entire class of students' responses. Basically, they go into reports, they go to prompt analysis, they select the prompt that they want to have printed, and then the little print button uploads, and then they can select which one they want. And if they picked last score reports, it will print it will allow them to print the entire class of essays with the scores. So it's really it's a really simple thing. I've begged and begged and begged for that. So I feel like this is my personal victory, just so you know. And every time I bring this up, we get massive cheers. So if you want to be a hero, send this information down the line. Progress reports, just to show you what they look like, because you may have access to this at the district level as well, that you can go in and see first drafts and last drafts and how growth has happened so that you can actually train it. And it works really, really well, because that's one of the things that shows that's really useful. It shows trend data. It also shows you can do it by individual class, by individual student. This one, it just happens to show a student from my demo site. So it shows a lot more fine-grained information for teachers who are interested in trying to see, are they making any progress? Another thing we found out through feedback from all of our writing workshops, we haven't done some intro to Utah Compose workshops over probably the last year, as we've been trying to get everybody to use it for best practice. And we've got a host of new people who've never used it before, including some science teachers are really interested in using it. So I would like to do some introductory Utah Compose workshops that would probably take a couple hours, so we could do multiple sessions within a day if we needed to. And so if you're interested in hosting a workshop in your area, please let me know. It takes a lot of time for us to try to call around to find sites. And so I don't have tons of time, but we could do some in November. We could maybe do a couple in early December. And in case you have teachers who are asking, I'm not sure how to use it, this is in our PowerPoint that we provide. And I've also sent this to a lot of teachers as well. But under the guide function in Utah Compose, if they click on helping students, there is a little video, it's about 11 minutes long, that loads that they can use to show their students as well as review for themselves. And it shows them pretty much everything they need to know about Utah Compose. But for the teachers, when I've asked them, they would really prefer to have somebody hold their hand a little bit. And I'm happy to do that. I love working with them, and we usually figure out a lot of really good ways to use that program effectively, especially for people who've never used it before. We also want to celebrate, we're going to celebrate a little bit. And I put everybody's name on this because Megan and Heather and Tracy and I have worked really hard to do the writing workshops. And it's been kind of a phenomenal thing. So far, by the time we're done, November 1st, we will have presented to over 600 educators all over the state. In 1 week, Megan and I drove 1,150 miles to present. All the participants, by the way, want to give you a heads up so that you're kind of aware. You may be hearing from teachers asking about this informational benchmarks or how they use Utah Compose. If you get any questions, please send them. You can forward them on to me. I'm happy to help them, guide them through. But we wanted to let you know that we are doing an application of learning thing with this. It wasn't just we're going to present and then they walk out and they don't have to do anything with it. We have 2 sessions scheduled, as you know. And the only way they get credit is if they attend both sessions and they complete their assignment. Now, this is for the one that I have up on the slide for application of learning is for teachers who teach grades 3 to 11. We have some specific instructions for the teachers who teach K2. We didn't have a ton of them. But we do have a few. And then for instructional coaches, we gave them some information when we sent the slides. This is basically what we're recommending as the informative writing instructional cycle. When people ask how to use the SAGE writing benchmarks and how to use Utah Compose with it, this is what we're recommending teachers do as an instructional cycle or a loop. One thing that we want to be aware, that you need to be aware of, we are highly recommending that every single teacher give at least one SAGE informational writing benchmark module so that they can see how their students are doing with the new condition codes. It's very, very, very important because a lot of teachers, it's impossible when you're just doing manual instruction sometimes to see how kids are copying too much information from the stimulus. And duplicate text, many teachers are aware of it, but sometimes they're not aware of it until it's too late, like in the middle of the summative test when they can't tell them not to do it. Whereas if they're using the benchmarks, they will be able to see that, they can drill down, they can look at the information. So that is a really big deal, and we're hoping that everybody will support us with that and encourage your teachers to do this. It will have a huge impact on writing scores because we are not rescoring essays due to condition codes in the spring as far as our plan is. Our writing workshops, so you know what we covered. We talked about text structure, differentiation, including resources and accommodations. We discussed this. We worked together with our SPED department. We had special ed teachers come and we talked a little bit about this. We will be doing more with this in our second session. Prompt analysis, academic vocabulary, transitions, using textual evidence, elaborative techniques. We hit on the condition codes, and we started talking about the writing benchmarks and best practices using UTEC Compose. But it was a lot of information in one day, so some of them are feeling a little fire hosed, which we're not surprised about. And then again, we're please asking all ELA teachers give at least one stage writing benchmark so that they can check for the condition codes of prompt copy match and duplicate text. And I'm seeing lots of people offer to host workshops, and thank you for the feedback, because I will be sending you. Why don't you drop me an email, you guys, and it will be faster than me trying to just go back through the slideshow and contact everybody. Let's see. And Heather's going to step in really quick to talk about the prompt copy match question with 3rd and 4th grade. And there's a question about Devil's Net on here too, so you may want to answer that.
Okay. All right, so as far as with 3rd and 4th grade, knowing that especially in 3rd grade, we have students who are only required to write a paragraph. So getting that ratio right regarding how much text evidence can be used with those younger grades is important to us. So right now it's set at 70, but we are going to be collecting the data on how many prompt copy match flags occur in 3rd and 4th grade across the benchmarks and the interims. And as we look for those numbers of conditional codes flagged, that will help us in the process of trying to refine that ratio and see if we need to give those grade levels a little more buffer. So again, that's another reason why this encouragement to get our students in there and using that those benchmarks in a meaningful way is important, so that we can ensure on our end that we are that we have a good ratio for those younger grades. As far as Dibble's Net, I did respond, let's see, did I understand this correctly? Dibble's Net K-3 rosters will not be updated again until MOY. The rosters will be updated once Utrex is back up, but with Dibble's Net, because we only gather the data at BOY, MOY, and EOY, it doesn't really impact what's happening because Dibble's Net is done paper pencil. If you have any more questions, let me know. Will we see when you set the ratio? Yes, we will be communicating that out once we gather the data and have more conversations about that. Yes, it does. People use it for PM.
Yeah. So we upload Dibble's Net doing nightly. So when that's back up to Utrex, we'll be uploading
Okay.
them as well.
I apologize. So yes, when that when Utrex is back on, then that will be uploaded on your SIS site, and then it will be back up and running for PM. Good. Thank you.
I don't know what the next slide is. Okay, sage writing in grades 9 and 10. Jared, do you want to come talk about your poll, or you want me to throw it out? Your choice.
Go ahead.
Okay, so to write or not to write, that is the question. I love it that you used Hamlet. When you heard that the board decided to have SAGE in grades 9 and 10 for the 2017-2018 school year, were you expecting that SAGE writing would be part of that administration? Would you please, if you have not already, respond to the poll on the screen? This is a very, very important question. Okay, all right. Okay, parental exclusion. Here comes Jared.
So this isn't that in depth. It's just showing you where we've posted an Excel file with, well, I use parental exclusion, the more official term, but we all talk about opt-outs. So that's what this is. It has the opt-out percentages for the state, LEA, school. So you can go to the link, or not the link, but you can go to the website and be able to pull that report and see. Any questions on that? Other thing I want to bring up is that iOS 11, if you have iPads or iPhones or other things, they've been updated to 11, and or they could be updated to 11. So we just wanted to share with you. This is specifically for iPads that aren't managed by MDM. So most of them I think are, but if you don't have some management system that you're using for your iPads, there's a feature in iOS 11 that allows the user to put an app on top of another app. And so when testing, they could put an app on top of the secure browser and be able to use that. So the obvious kind of recommendation is wait to upgrade your iPads till this issue is resolved by Apple. But we know that either they may be set to automatically update, you've updated them. So then our recommendation, we wanted to allow them to still be used for testing, but we're just letting you know, and hopefully you can pass this to proctors and test administrators, that they need to be extra vigilant as they administer the tests. Just making sure that they're not seeing this app on top of app feature. So Apple, this would include some of you and not others, but I wanted to share with you kind of what we're planning. I've shared this with some of you, and we're working frantically to try and help you. And again, sorry for the issues that we've had here. So we did submit the student file because Utrex was offline. There weren't going to be any updates. And I'll talk more about that in just a second. Then going down, we've asked and we have been receiving from LEA's educator file. That's just what I'm calling it. I don't know, some fancy name, but you've been sending those back with emails and with the educators that you want in there. Maybe not just the target language teacher, but you have some other ones that you would like into the system. So we will be sending that today. LTI has said as soon as they receive those, they will be updating and uploading those users in to have an account in the system. So those educators should be receiving by the latest an email tomorrow. Hopefully, if we can get this going, hopefully that we can get some of them receiving emails today. Just a reminder of the testing window. It starts Monday the 23rd and goes till November 17th. And then for new students, actually I need to update that. So that the bullet point of for new students, let's talk more about the first bullet point. So what we're deciding to do, and please let us know if this is something problematic, but Emily Berry will be sending out today via Move It. She will be sending what we have for your district as by way of students. And then you can review and look at that to see if what we sent on that student file on Friday, whether that's accurate or whether it missed some schools, missed some students. That would give you a heads up that, excuse me, this is tearing me up for some reason. This will give you a heads up to be able to check and see the school SIS system, make sure the core codes are coming through, contact us if you need some assistance. Then on Monday, the 23rd, we will submit a new master student file to LTI after, and maybe we could even do that Friday if Utrex is up and running, but that would give us a way to be able to accurately get those students in there that have come in. For other new students that move, say, beginning in November or so on, if you just let us know, we will pass that to LTI and they will upload those students into the system. I did, with the email for this PowerPoint, there were some resources. I think they've been sent before, but I wanted to send them again. And then again, our contacts, Emily, Barry, and myself. So a big question here is how can we assist you? We've had some questions, but hopefully we're trying to respond to those, and we're trying to be aware of the needs of a district. I know as far as the size and being able to test all your students. We have been also talking with LTI about the possibility of maybe even extending the testing window to see if that would help as well. So if you have some ways that you need us to specifically assist you with this, please let us know if we haven't met those needs. Let's see, I'm looking through the chat. I see Andrew sent, how long are the emails valid? That's a great question. I haven't heard, and so I will check up on that. And then we have a question about, oh, we have a comment about Dibbles. So if you have Dibbles, you can read Sydney's, let's see. Okay, then there have been questions about the RFP for grades 9 and 10, the high school assessment. Here's what we've proposed. Sydney and I have talked about this. As you know, there's other people who we work with as far as finance and leadership and other things, but this is what we're hoping, that beginning November we can set up a meeting to start writing the RFP. Then after that meeting, we'll take the feedback, make the edits, and so on through November. Then at the end of November, towards the end of November, we'll bring that group back and look at the RFP and kind of finalize things, get it ready to post. Beginning of December, post that RFP for vendors to share their proposals. Mid-January, after the number of days that needs to be posted are complete, then close that RFP, then have an RFP scoring meeting, 2 times, one to be able to score for certain certain criteria, and then another meeting to score on some other criteria, and then award the vendor and then begin work on contract. I think that's a pretty ambitious timeline, but I'm hoping that'll work. I don't know, we have Darren here. He can maybe respond to that. Now he can wait till the 26th to worry about stuff like that. Let's see, I'm trying to look at questions here with my, sorry, moving around. Is it possible for Questar? Yeah, it could be. I mean, they would have the opportunity to propose, to send in a proposal. So it could be anyone that would like to put in a proposal for 9 and 10. That's part of writing the RFP or the request for proposal, would be to let them know what our criteria are, what we would like, and then they can propose based on that. Let's see, was there ever a decision made on 12th grade students and SAGE participation? There has not been, from what I understand. I know we've been talking, you had Michelle earlier. We've been talking about the 12th grade and how that's going to affect accountability in SAGE, and that's a continuing conversation. And then let's see.
Is it open to ACT as well?
Oh, sure. So Lori, yeah, I mean, it would be open to any vendor that wants to submit a proposal. It could be ACT, SAT, AIR, Questar. I mean, it could be any vendor that feels that they can meet the specifications that we've laid out in our RFP. let's see, why is the ninth? Oh, so the reason the 9th and 10th grade RFP wasn't included, it actually was at the beginning. The school board decided to, I think because of various agendas, but the school board decided to split that out and have a separate 9-10 RFP and then a 3-8. And so that was a school board decision as to why it was done that way. Initially, it was 3 through 10. Well, actually 3 through 8 with the option of 9-10, but it has been split out based on the school board decision. Speaking, do you have any more information about Questar? Not at this point, other than we're going to be starting the contract negotiations. And wow, they're coming in. I'm trying to keep up here. So Sherry shares about the benchmark assessments. That would be our hope. It would be to have benchmark interim type of assessments within that system. Kim will notice that I avoided saying formative.
Thank you.
And let's see.
Do you anticipate when we would have a decision about 12th grade students?
Great question. I sense the need there, so I will work on getting that decision as soon. 11th grade, no with the new test. So far, no, it would just be 9-10. ACT would be the 11th grade. George asking about Questar using Sage questions. Will he also? We don't know that at this point. That would be all the contract negotiations and going through that, and we are just at the beginning stages of that. So a lot more to come. Any other questions? I think I caught up with them. Let's see, yeah. So I will move on, but please share your questions if you have others. And there you go. Question. Oh,
Are 9-10 doing Sage writing this year?
that's a great question. Hence our poll that we would like you to respond to. So the board is discussing this. They talked about not doing it, but they never really came up with a final decision as far as I understand. And so we just wanted to see what the expectation was. So I can't give you a final yes or no.
Will there ever be an opportunity? Will there ever be an opportunity
Yes.
to address the testing scheduling adaptation needs
Let me
associated with digital-based schools?
Yeah, let me scroll up. So Yvette, about testing schedule adaptation needs. So I'm not sure which one you're, maybe it's all assessments that we have. But that would be an excellent conversation for this RFP in writing and talking about the needs. The same would also be with our contract negotiations with Questar for grades 3 through 8 would be to talk about this. So if you have specific questions or requests or enhancements, whatever you want to call them, for digital-based schools, please send those our way so we can have some idea of what you're thinking of.
If they're administering the ACT and they're a digital school, and they haven't been involved in that offsite conversation, they should.
Okay, so I'm hearing the voices from behind the monitor. So as far as ACT, Rebecca Peterson has been working with online schools to have some conversation about how to administer the ACT and work together. If you haven't been a part of those conversations, please get with Rebecca Peterson, email her, and she can get you into those conversations.
If we have students taking mid-year summit at ELA, should we have them take the writing then?
Yes, at this point they will need to because, well, I say need to. in order to get a composite ELA score, they need to take writing. So there would need, and that's one of the discussions for not doing writing, is AIR would need to go in and change some things within the system so that they can still get an ELA score. So at this point, yes, go with writing. Let's see, I'm still trying to scroll down.
Did I hear correctly that the new assessment will also cover the alternative assessments? We will no longer have to get the DLM?
Yeah, so we, for the grades 3 through 8, that RFP included the alternative assessment. So Questar would be, Questar would have that as well. So we would work with them on both the general assessment and the alternative assessment for grades 3 through 8.
If the board takes out writing, will the ELA scores for kids who took mid-year be adjusted?
Great question. See, these are all things that we need to make sure the board understands when they make the decisions. So at this point, we don't know how it's going to play out.
They're only taking out writing for grades 9 and 10. Make sure everybody understands that, because I think they're all of a sudden people.
Okay, so, and maybe you're hearing Kim say this, but we're only talking about not having writing for grades 9 and 10. So that's what the board has been talking about, taking writing out for grades 9 and 10. As far as specific answers, we don't have them at this point. We're trying to find out what it's going to take to actually change the system, what the cost will be, what the expectations are from the field, and then move forward from there. As you know, a lot of these decisions are somewhat slow in getting through all the specifics. That is our hope. So on the new system, will there be ASL videos and Braille? Yes, there will be. We don't have specifics on that, that would be part of our contract negotiation. But yes, they were included in the RFP, and the vendor Questar has proposal on those. Let's see. Oh, okay, DLM goes away. That's a great question, Sandy. We had that same question. We would need to probably have that an RFP for the high school alternative assessment. So that would, we're hoping would be put into our RFP as we're creating it for grades 9, 10. Okay, any other questions? It kind of slowed down. Please let us know if there's anything we can do to help. Let us know questions or what you're in need of. Oh, let's see. Yeah, I agree as far as, let's see. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up with my little chat box here. So yeah, hopefully we can continue with the items that we have with Questar, and they seem very capable to be able to do that and continue with those that item development. As far as the slides, they have not been posted yet, but they have been sent in an email to you. We will post those most likely. I think it's our Assessment Director's Resources tab. Takes a couple clicks to get to it, but it will be there. I'm hoping this afternoon. Okay, any other questions? We'll let you get on with your day if there aren't. Please, last request, please take the poll. Let us know what your expectation was as far as grades 9 and 10. Thank you.